All right, so to shed some light and take reactions concerning the continued border closure by the joint security agencies, let's head to Abuja. Mark.
Well, thank you, Chamberlain. We have with us this morning Mr. Joseph Attah, who is the Public Relations Officer of Nigeria Customs. You're welcome to Sunrise Daily.
Good morning. Thank you very much.
Good morning.
Yeah.
Well, it's how many weeks now? It's going to how many months now since the borders have been closed? And Nigerians are wondering, it was supposed to be a temporary measure. How temporary is this temporary measure?
Well, it's temporary to the extent that our neighbors see reasons to come and engage our political leaders and recommit to strict implementation of the ECOWAS protocol on transit of goods.
Okay, so for how long, how much longer do you think the borders will be closed?
I say as long as those whose actions necessitated this ongoing partial border closure come to recommit to strict implementation of the ECOWAS protocol on transit, as long as it takes them to realize that, look, it's no longer business as usual, and they come and recommit to strict implementation.
It's been a mixed bag for, Nigeria as we implement this. I mean, Nigeria and Nigerians, because Nigerians do business also on the other side as well. Mm-hmm. And I think some of our people are on the other side hoping to do business here in Nigeria. There have been complaints about how business has been slow and how, I think yesterday was in the papers, we saw border communities, the livelihoods of border communities are being affected. Et cetera, et cetera. What other consequences have, I know that the Nigeria Customs has enumerated the positives of this, how much money you have been able to make on a daily basis as a result of this border closure, the fact that people are forced to come and use land borders, yes, beg your pardon, the seaports rather, and pay duties on the items that they are importing. However, there must also be some downside. What precisely has it been for you?
Well, as much as we always make copious reference to the Nigerian Customs Service, because, of course, in the first place, it's the statutory responsibility of the Nigerian Customs Service to deal with the issues of smuggling. But what is going on now is beyond the Nigerian Customs Service as a single service. It's a joint operations, of course, comprising of forces from the armed forces of Nigeria, Nigerian Police Force, Nigerian Immigration, and operatives of the intelligence agency. So it's a joint teamwork that is ongoing. The whole idea is to deal with this trans-border economic and security challenges that we've been confronted with over the years. And even the border community dwellers will agree with me that the security situation around their areas have been improved. Nigerian farmers will tell you that because of the shutting down of rice, foreign rice into this country, patronage of their rice has increased. Farmers, some of them are even asking, we should, asking for the assurances that we are not going to stop this anytime soon and go back to foreign rice coming, because there are expansion of farms now. More hands are being engaged. Massive investment in the area of agriculture is going. And of course, you are aware that the federal government is resolved to strengthen the agricultural sector and to bring about national food security. So there are good sides of it. And of course, there are very few who, maybe doing legitimate businesses, but caught up in the web of this ongoing partial border closure. But when decisions are taken for greater good, the very few that may be caught up, it's just like you're going to work, and there have been acts of criminalities on the road, and the road is shut down, and for one reason or the other, you're caught up in the traffic jam. Maybe you have to renegotiate and find another longer route to your office. You might arrive at your office later than usual, but those are things that have to be endured. Those are things that have to be endured in the interest of greater good.
What precisely has been the problem before now? Let me tell you one of the benefits which caught my attention, which I think the NNPC has also played up. The fact that the amount of monies we're paying on subsidy, on fuel subsidy, has decreased drastically. I find that a little curious because then it also begins to question the efficiency of the people who have been at the borders. Tankers of petrol are not the kind of things that you would hide to smuggle across the border, for instance. There are things that would go through, direct land borders. Are you doing any investigation in-house as to how this could have been going on and Nigeria was bleeding as a result of that?
Now, petrol smuggling are not necessarily done in tankers, though once in a while you get that isolated cases. They are done mostly in jerry cans. In some far part of the north, they are called bubrutu. These things are just loaded into jerry cans and smuggled through the porous border. And this has been the situation. The issue of what actually necessitated the exercise is just the continuous nonchalance, indifference, or let me even say deliberate non-compliance to the ECOWAS protocol on transit by our neighbors. The ECOWAS protocol, for clarity, mandates a receiving country. For instance, if a container arrives at Cotonou port destined for Nigeria, the Benin authorities are mandated by that protocol to collect whatever tax there is. If there is, I don't know, they collect it, and then they provide escort without tampering with the seal, meaning that the container will not be opened. It will be escorted to the border of the destination country, in this case, Nigeria, handed over to the authority of the country, who will now open, examine. Of course, they are in position to know what is allowed into their country or not. But over the years, they've somewhat found it convenient not to be in compliance with this protocol. They break this container, transload into trucks and trailer. Of course, you never get to know if what is being transloaded were the only original things that came in that container. In this case, drugs, arms, and ammunition could have been separated and passed through the bushes and all that. And over time, we've been complaining. The Nigerian Customs Service, in particular, have raised this at different fora. Our regional customs forums, we've raised it a number of times. Memorandums were signed, agreements were signed to recommit. These agreements were broken as soon as they were signed. At a certain point, they complained and said, look, you are a big brother. We are not as big as you are. We are not as rich as you are. We don't have vehicles to do this escort. We even gave them vehicles. We are not obliged to do that, but as a big brother, we did that. They did that like 1 week, 2 weeks, something that resembles compliance. After a while, they renege back to square one. Of course, the vehicles remain with them.
I'm just wondering, that doesn't quite answer the issue of, how we were bleeding through fuel subsidy. You already said that the smuggling oftentimes are not done in tankers. Maybe there's the occasional tanker that goes through the borders. However, if we did know that there are other ways by which these things are smuggled, did we bother to do any investigation to see how it could be stopped?
Well, that brings me to the issue of the border. Nigeria is a big country in this region, in this sub-region, with a long, winding, largely porous border. So over time, people have taken advantage of this. From both sides of the divide. We also have Nigerians, get it right, we have Nigerians who actively even connive with people of the other side to ensure that these things are smuggled. We have Nigerians today, it will surprise you to know that we have Nigerians today who have handsets provided to them by smugglers. Their job is to just ride a machine, run, and monitor the movement of our patrol vehicles, and then begin to call their paymasters. Oh, I have seen that they're going this way. If you're coming, don't take right. Take the other road. You bust out in this village, and then you hit the highway. And those are the circumstances when we have intelligence, we deploy our men to go to the highway after those people who would have been seen on the highway. And people will say, where we are there, where they pass through the border. Are they supposed to be on the highway? By the way, the law that established customs empowers us to patrol freely every part of the country. So those are the issues. There are whole complicated issues, which this pulling together of security forces, which has meant more manpower, more equipment, more technology, has enabled us to reach every creek, every bush, all those places that hitherto the Nigerian Customs Service alone may not have reached, are being reached. And that is why we're having this kind of massive positive results in terms of seizures, arrests of illegal migrants, and all that.
Okay. Let's go to Lagos now and take some questions from my colleagues.
Well, yes, indeed. We actually have Monday Obani here with us. He's a legal practitioner, and then he's to give his perspective on this matter, but it has to do with those who are also affected by this operations of customs. Good morning, and thank you for coming on today.
Thank you, Chamberlain.
Well, you highlighted the fact that some of those who are maybe directly or indirectly affected with this happen to be the car dealers. But you heard the response from customs previously. So has anything changed?
Well, up to now, they have not opened the car shops for up to 3 weeks now. Most of them went to bed only to discover the following day that their car mats have been sealed by the customs. No invitation letter, no letter explaining the reason for the sealing up of their business premises. And I listened carefully to the custom officials, and it's obvious that what is being deployed presently is an act of desperation. Because of system failure, you now take acts that you consider desperate in order to solve a problem. But in the process, you create more problems. Now, for the owners of cars, the custom has breached two basic principles of criminal jurisprudence. The principle of fair hearing, and you cannot be a judge in your own case. The moment you descend into the act of sealing somebody's business premises without a court order, you have descended into the arena of punishment. You have effected what you call punitive measures without giving them an opportunity of being here. Let's assume, but not considering that the cars that came in and are in the shops, there are no duties paid upon them. Which of the cars in particular are you referring to? You now, in a blanket manner, lock up their business premises. Some of them may be doing other business other than car, even within the same premises. And you have locked it up, and no reason has been advanced. You have not written them any official letter.
I think part of the statement circulating, and I think he will also respond soon, is that customs is interested in revenue, because some of them sell smuggled vehicles, and so they want to ensure that, and he said the closure is temporary. So as soon as they've done their necessary checks, they will be reopened. Do they have this communication?
What I did, they don't have that communication. What I did with some of them, these car dealers, some of them are my friends. I went to them and said, look, the allegation is that most of these cars that are inside your shops, premises, there are no details paid upon them. They say it's a lie. They have all their documentation. They showed me documentation. And these are valid documentation from customs. And you didn't ask them to present those documents before sealing. Because as I said earlier, by sealing, you have now, punished them. And you cannot do that without a valid court order.
So on what premise would you say then that customs may have taken this action, knowing fully well, of course, that customs being a duly set up agency of government would have, the law on that, they would have some understanding of how the law works. So on what premise would you say, legally speaking, that this
there is this particular section that allows them to enter into any premises, especially for certain goods that come into the country that are not properly, the duties are not paid on them. But that's to the extent of taking those goods, asking for documentation to show you have paid duties upon them, but not selling all business premises. You don't have that right to do that. It's only a court order, under court order you can do that. You can take those goods, this car, you didn't pay duty upon them. Can you produce any paper to really back, you up? So it is in the absence of that you can now add that to the car, or even take it to your, premises, office, and say, come and show documentation that you have paid duties upon them. But when you now come and lock up business premise that has grave, what you call economic implication. One, these people have workers that work for them. They have family that are dependent upon them. For over 3 weeks, you lock them up, and nothing has been said. As I said earlier, no single letter was written to them to explain the reason for the sealing up of their business premises, except what they read on social media and newspapers.
Hopefully he will respond, as Chamberlain said the other time. But then that's not the only place sealed off. We also heard reports of invasion of some hotels and stuff, you know, for the same reason of looking for evidence of payments of duty from the owners of the cars who are in some hotels in some cities, Abuja inclusive. Is there legal premises for that as well?
For me, these are clearly desperate measures. I mean, when you hear
When you say, this is the second time you're talking about desperate measures.
Yeah, because you see, all of us were interested in fighting smuggling on the ground that we want, you know, a country that is properly, you know, properly policed. People who are bringing in goods must pay for them. So you cannot, because of the fact that we are against smuggling, begin now to take measures that are desperate, not following the law. I mean, going to hotels. The next thing now is going to homes now, probably ask you to come to your kitchen or to your listener, ask you for the bag of rice that you have, whether duties.
But you heard him say the other time that the law permits customs to operate anywhere in Nigeria.
No, see, permitting you to operate does not give you a right of abuse. Because there is a difference between issue of, asking somebody whether he has paid a duty upon certain items and then sealing up business premises or doing certain thing that is now, you know, judgmental, that you have passed punishment upon the person, because any person you accuse of a crime must have his own day. You know, he must be here. So none of them have been here. Like the car thing I'm talking about, there is no opportunity of them being here. You already punished them before asking them to bring the car particulars to your business premise. That is not correct. You first of all ask them, did you pay duty on, do you pay any duty on this? And if they fail to, then you now take measure. But the moment you have sealed up their business premises, you have punished them, and you don't have any right under democracy for an agency of government to take the measure of being a prosecutor and being a judge and being an executioner. It doesn't happen that way.
So with the benefit of hindsight, if we were to rewind, as it were, how should the process have gone?
Yeah, the process is that if you know, even though he has not addressed this issue of laxity and incompetence on the part of the custom officers, allowing those things in the first place to come in without proper, you know, check or assessment at the port or border that is porous and all that. Now, if you discover there are goods that are in that duties are not paid upon, you identify them. You identify them and probably carry them to your, you know, ask them to bring document for it. But closing, sealing up business premise, you know, that is where you don't do it unless there is a valid court order that gives you that right. Because you must have gone to court to say, you know, on this supremacy, these are the things you have found out and they should be sealed up for the meantime. The court will now order, either give the other party, you know, notice to be here. But you single-handedly now playing the role of, you know, the accuser. You are playing the role of a judge. You're also playing the role of executing the judgment and not. It doesn't happen. No agency under democracy have such powers. It's only the judiciary that have such powers to do what they have just done. Punitive measures can only be given by court.
No, understanding that. But customs time and again has said, you know, this is for the good of the nation. I mean, you heard them saying they have saved or at least gotten 115 billion naira over the course. That's the highest they have made so far. So putting that side by side with these actions, do you still think?
We must try as much as possible to be logical in whatever we are proposing for a country. A country runs by law. We have law. If you are making money at the expense of majority of Nigerians, then you are killing the economy. You are also killing the people, because the money you are making is to make sure that the people are happy. But if majority of the people that you are making the money for are not enjoying anything, and you are killing, you know, even them themselves. I'm talking about the people that, you know, you have closed up their shops, the people you are harassing, the people you are intimidating. How can you now say you are giving good governance? Because you are making this money for the people, but the people you are making the money are dead.
Just one.
And that cannot be right.
Just one last question before we go back to Abuja. Do you see the customs paying some compensation if it's...
Yeah, if this matter comes before any court or competent, they will look at it, because for how many days now? As I said earlier, 3 weeks. You have locked up their businesses, and they are not doing anything. They have to pay salary at the end of the month. You know, government must try as much as possible not to inflict punishment on the citizens. This is very important, because what you are doing is that you are trying to, you know, formulate a government policy of lifting people out of poverty. 100 million, you said. But you are driving those people into poverty by the measures you've taken. Okay, look at the situation where they cannot pay salaries for those who are working for them at the end of the month. Look at even those who are dependent upon them. They cannot pay. They cannot give them money. They are, you know, some of them are breadwinners. So I think that government must consider issue of generating income in order to make people happy. The citizens, it's for the citizens. They're not happy with the measures government have taken so far in this.
Let's get him to respond directly to this. Makwe?
Well, he's still here, and I'm sure he'll have a lot to say. You have heard him, that you're punishing the people even before you have found them guilty.
Yeah, I've heard him. I appreciate the fact that he's doing his good job as a lawyer, but at a certain point, he appeared to be a better trained custom officer than there are in the country. What is clear from what he has said so far is that his clients may not have adequately briefed him because it's obvious to me that he's not aware that we are in consultation with them. He's not aware that the leadership of the Motor Dealers Association of Nigeria, even the auto marketers, were at our headquarters and we had a fruitful discussion. He's probably not aware that over a period of time...
When was this?
Just last week. He's not aware. He's not also aware...
Today is already Friday. He talks about people's shops being closed for...
No, I'm coming. I'm just
no,
trying to
you
give...
land. He's talking about people's shops being closed for upwards of 3 weeks. If you had a meeting with them last week...
I'm just trying to give a background.
I know. I want to put a question in there. And indeed, the meeting was fruitful, according to you. Today is Friday. If the shops have not been opened 1 week after fruitful discussions, when will it yield fruit for those whose shops have been locked?
That's why you should have allowed me to land.
By all means, go ahead.
I was going to plug the fruits for him and for viewers. Before even the action we took, motor dealers have been requesting from the Nigerian Customs Service to give them a window to pay duty on smuggled items in their shops. You know, before the fiscal policy of government that banned or, the importation of vehicles through the land border and restricted them to the seaport, some of them have openly confessed to us that indeed they are in possession of goods, vehicles in particular, that duty have not been paid. That means smuggled items. And somewhat we've been reluctant in granting that approval because once you do that, people will just, how are you sure that freshly smuggled vehicles, those that must have sneaked their way in one way or the other, will not take advantage of it? Because there is an ongoing partial border closure. Don't forget the fact that the pulling together of security forces means we have more manpower to kind of rigorously patrol all the nook and crannies of our borders. So this is the best time to do it. And then when we took that action, they panicked, of course, and we engaged them by saying, look, this is the time for you to come and do what you have been asking for. They came to they sent a delegation to us, and we interacted. The customs management, of course, presided over by the Comptroller General, interfaced with them. And what was agreed was that, okay, now it's sealed. It's going to be open when you present all your documents. Those that duty have been paid will be allowed. Those that duty have not been paid, you will be asked, instead of seizing them, which would be a kind of massive loss. The law empowers us to seize them anyway, even prosecute them. But in this case, a reprieve has been given. Come, pay duty with 25% levy on those vehicles. The ones that may not be in the shop as we speak, that you have somewhere, if you voluntarily bring them, you pay duty without penalty. They even go as far as saying even the ones that are under detention, just pay duty and take your vehicle and go. And they're so happy.
You're explaining something about, the consultations you're having with the car dealers yielding fruit. And I think Mr. Obani made the point about those who have paid some duty, those who have cars already have paid duty on them, and maybe just a few cars in their shop have not been paid, duties have not been paid on them. Do you think it is fair that those shops be closed down when they have paid duties on perhaps majority of the vehicles in their shops?
I think we should be careful here not to really mislead the public. He's a lawyer. He knows what the law says about that. He knows the consequences of concealment. When you pay duty on something, when you import something that the law said should be imported, and you even pay appropriate duty, and then you use those things to conceal smuggled items, what you have done is that you've compromised the integrity of the legitimate ones. And the law empowers us to seize both the smuggled items and the ones that you pay duty on, or the ones that the law allowed that you use to conceal the illegitimate ones. He knows this. So if you have, for instance, 50 vehicles in your shop, and let's say you even pay for 25 vehicles. But you have 25 vehicles that you smuggled, and then you mix them up there. The law empowers us to seal up everything there. In fact, if we are to go by the law, we will seal everything, including those ones, the so-called legitimate ones, that you used to conceal the other ones.
Yeah, but what
He's a lawyer. He knows this.
What if, I mean, this is a process of negotiations, and you say these things are ongoing.
But in any case,
They are already willing to, they said they are willing to pay these duties. I mean, for the people who have not paid duties, shouldn't there be a period of grace in which Nigeria Customs will say, okay, you go ahead, be paying the duties. If by this time you have not finished paying, then, you know, this will be the consequences.
There was indeed a period of grace. In that meeting that I just referred to, a number of issues were raised. They also pleaded for understanding on the part of customs, like if the owner of a shop comes in and then the valuation officer value everything and the total amount to be paid is so huge that he cannot pay immediately, customs should consider staggering it, and all that were considered and agreed upon. So as we speak, valuation officers are going around valuing such vehicles that duties have not been paid. People are already
Will
responding.
the shops be shut while the valuation officer is doing
Those
their
who
job?
have not complied, it will remain shut. Those who are complying are being attended to.
What about the accusation that you have even shut them down without even giving them fair hearing? It's like I said, there's already the assumption of guilt that indeed these people will have something that the customs, they've not paid customs duty on. So let us shut them down, let them come and prove it.
Customs does not strike without credible intelligence. Is there any one of them that have come out to say, in my shop, there's no single smuggled vehicle so far? We've not seen one. So we know what we're doing.
Well, I think the ball will be in Mr. Obane's court to see whether the people he's speaking for, maybe they do not have any, they don't have any vehicles right there. But let's hear from him. Chimberlain.
Yes, indeed. Let's see how he plays the ball. He said it that, look, is there any one of them that I said I have no smuggled vehicle whatsoever? Have they stood up?
Well, I interviewed some of them, and they told me that most of them have all their documents, and their documents are correct.
Have they approached customs?
Yes, the law does not allow double jeopardy. There is no way if you're a car buyer in this country, there is no way you enter into any car mart and buy a car without, first of all, sometime in verifying whether the documents that are given to you are from custom. And most of the documents that they have is valid custom papers. But there are things he's not addressing. These car dealers are not custom license agent. They are not custom at the border or at the port that assess these cars before they are brought in. They are only received after the goods have been cleared. So if you are not addressing those licensed custom agents who you think are conniving, because you see, what they're saying now, after somebody has imported his car and has shown you document, you now say, no, the percentage you pay is less.
Yeah, but
and you should go and pay 100%. Why would you allow your people to assess below? And then the man brings the car in. He's not a custom license agent.
But
those cars were cleared, properly.
Does that not...
And you're not asking him to come and pay 100%, whereas he has document from you. That is double jeopardy. You have not addressed the issue. You have not solved the problem.
Where he then say, if you say they are not customs agents, on the one hand.
Yes, and they're not custom officers who assess.
Won't they be accessories if they were found to be selling smuggled cars?
I don't understand how as a car dealer.
If car dealers are found to be selling smuggled cars, the fact that they're not custom agent doesn't invalidate them or prevent them from being prosecuted for being an accessory.
I agree with you. If they're found, you must find them out and know the cars in particular. The measures they have, you see him say that you still have those shops sealed and all that. I say that is wrong because these guys go and negotiate.
Okay,
when things are not done properly in this country, that's why people, security agencies or government agencies keep on, acting on impunity. You have no right, as I said earlier, as agency. To take laws into your hand by prescribing punishment when you have not, found that person liable and guilty.
Did they brief you that they had a meeting with customs?
They've been having meetings. But he said fruitful. 1 week, nothing has happened. You heard him say that the shops will remain closed. What have you done? You have kept them out of business.
Was there a
Whereas you
meeting?
have not in any way found them guilty.
Was there a meeting before the closures?
There was no meeting, any such meeting. Most of them came to work the following day and discovered that their premises were sealed by customs. There was no notice. There was no letter inviting them or telling them what their crime or liability, are. So understand this is wrong.
One moment, you always say you cannot build something on
nothing, yes.
And then going back, you realize that perhaps the wrong amount was paid or there was some shady deal eventually when the car was being brought in. And then, of course, it comes in eventually. Don't you think it's still proper for us to probably go back and say, you know what, the process was not good. So let's go back to that
who
process.
does that? What I'm saying, who is the one that says it's wrong? I'm only a seller of a car. My car, comes into the country, the custom does the assessment, the custom agent pays, and then bring the car and document of custom to me. And you're not telling me that, I didn't pay 100%. Am I the one who did the assessment? Am I the one that did the clearing at the wharf? You are not holding them liable. Whereas you have not addressed those two,
No, but what he also says is customs don't strike without some information.
Yes.
If they are found to have smuggled items, they will be prosecuted. But
right, but they follow the law.
I
have no problem with that. I have no problem with prosecuting anyone who is found liable. But you must follow the process. What they are doing is desperation. By going to go and seal, when you have not found them liable, when you have not even identified the cars you said duties were not paid on. There's no such information. You didn't even tell them, this one and this one, you didn't pay duties on them. What you did now is blanket. Who does that anywhere in the world? Blanket judgment.
There's this wider conversation about the ECOWAS.
I'm believing that all of them are all smugglers. What they have done now is that almost all car sellers are smugglers. That is a bad name for them.
Right, so I was going to refer to the ECOWAS Treaty. It's been a major talk. In fact, the Ghana Union of Traders have started protesting, saying that Nigeria did not follow the ECOWAS Treaty for closing of the border. So on a much wider scale, but because this is not just for car dealers, a lot of other people saying that we perhaps didn't follow this ECOWAS Treaty. What is the legality of this closure?
The point is that anything you are doing, you must look at the provisions of the law and try as much as possible to comply with it. If you're a member of a particular community that has signed a treaty, and the treaty prescribes methods you have to apply in order to do certain things, it is important you comply. You don't use desperation, because certain things are happening to your country, to do things that are wrong. But there's one thing, again, they have not even addressed. Why is it that the ports in Cotonou and other West African countries become a destination choice for importers? What happens to you? You have port in Apapa. You have all over the country. Why are people not willing to import things through your port? Because the landing cost, the clearing cost is so expensive. And many years, we have thought that government will sit down and address this issue. Why is it that Nigerians prefer Cotonou, port to Nigerian port? What is the problem? You have not addressed it. And these things keep on reoccurring and all that. And you now start punishing innocent people. My own take, and my take is that I am appealing. I'm sure that the president is listening over this particular incident to really prevail upon custom to really open up these people's premises. They can go ahead and make sure that those cars that are not duties are paid upon them. This blanket judgment is not helping the economy. And the meeting should be fruitful enough in order to open that, for 1 week after 1 week, nothing has been done.
All right, Mr. Mondobane.
It's not fair.
Thank you for coming on this morning. Makwe?
Well, Mr. Asai is still here. He has a few responses to make.
I think we need to be very careful. I hope we don't have two Nigerian customs service in Nigeria. The barrister there is saying that documents were presented to him and those documents were quite valid. I hope he does not have a CPC in his chambers, because the custom processing unit is where you verify such things. How has he checked the C number and confirmed that indeed these things are valid? It came across to me as somebody who does not know the existence of a DTI in the clearance process. That's direct trader input. Now, some of these documents that you see that may be bearing Nigerian Customs Service or whatever at the head that appears valid to him may have just been at the DTI level. Now, in order to ease the clearance process, there's something we call DTI, direct trader input, which some of these people can make declarations online right at the trader zone, even in their bedroom. And then some of them do not carry it to the end. They just print it there and begin to give to unsuspecting Nigerians as customs documents. And when you buy such thing without appropriate verification, you get problems with customs on the road when you are driving. So the documents they are presented to him, I don't know. I don't know how he's able to
Is it fair
ascertain.
then to punish Nigerians who, I mean, you already say are unsuspecting?
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Let me come to that. Now, the documents are presented to him, which he is now publicly saying they are valid. I don't know how he validated them. Did he carry them to the customs and checked? Did he check? Did they check the C number and confirm that they are genuine? So we should be careful with the comments we make publicly. Otherwise, they are coming to us. They are coming to engage the customer management. Would that be in nullity? Why did they have to come?
Well,
if they knew. And as I said, and I want to repeat, up until now, there haven't been any single one that has come to say, here I am. There is no one single smuggled vehicle in my shop.
the idea.
So he cannot.
The idea,
He cried
I
more than
believe,
he did.
is not to chase them into poverty. I mean,
Exactly,
as
exactly. That's what-
pointed out.
exactly.
The idea is to ensure that the Nigerian government gets the revenue that it deserves on goods that are imported. Isn't that right?
In a manner that does not completely run them out of business. And that is why the reprieve has been given. While we are supposed to seize, prosecute them,
Well, but
consultation have resulted to
if
this.
businesses have remained shut for more than 3 weeks now, you know, they'll begin to question whether indeed you're not planning to actually run them out of business.
I think you have to look at it from the perspective of the law that says, in this circumstance, everything there are supposed to be seized.
Quickly,
and even the person prosecuted.
quickly
and
respond
yet
to
that
this.
has not been done.
So far, so good. I'm seeing the figure you have brought in here. The grand total of goods seized is 1.862 trillion naira for this period alone in which the borders have been closed. 862 trillion naira is a lot of money. What's going to happen to those goods?
Well, it depends. Some of those goods has to be destroyed. They will be destroyed. I mean, talking about drugs will be destroyed. Petroleum, of course, petroleum will get back to the system. Rice, those that are not fit for human consumption after NAFDAC test will be destroyed. And those that are, the very few that may be fit for human consumption.
Is the customs
will be
working
given.
on its auctioning? Because we also know that customs auctions good. Are they working on making their auctioning process more transparent?
Yeah, our vehicle auction is online. Every auction now is online, and it's no longer manual as before. You just need to go to app.trade.gov/e-auction, and with your valid TIN number, tax identification number, you can participate.
I see. Okay, it's a fine place to leave it. We have to thank you so much for coming on Sunrise Today this morning. Mr. Joseph Atta is the Public Relations Officer of the Nigeria Customs Service.